On this week's show, hop on your talking robot and travel back to 1988, where brownface was acceptable.
Nope, it's racist.
And catfishing women was okay.
It was not.
And New York City looked a lot like downtown Toronto.
Yeah, that one's fair.
I'm Neth Knowles.
I'm Laura Medeiros.
I'm Rodey Guzum.
I'm Megan Swaine.
And this is Bad with Numbers.
So what's your favorite movie robot?
Oh, we're going now? Oh, it's shit.
Wow.
Literally just cut out the whole part where you're supposed to.
So glad I know how to edit.
Well, it's a future blooper for your Patreon.
There you go. I don't know. Movie robots, I personally don't find them memorable. I hated Chappie. So I, honest to God, think that this might be my favorite.
Wow.
I know, because he's so charming.
Like none of the Star Wars?
Yeah, R2-D2 is kind of all right. He's at least like sufferable, but C-3PO is garbage. BB-8 is just
Ooh.
R2-D2 but round.
I haven't watched it, but Alita Battle
Angel Alita?
Oh, yeah.
Is she a robot? Is she a robot? No.
Yeah, she's a robot.
Okay.
She's a robot.
She has them big robot eyes.
I don't know. I thought it was, I don't know.
Is she your favorite even though you haven't seen the movie?
I mean, it got good reviews, so maybe that could be my future.
Good movie.
There you go. See?
Does Data from Star Trek count as a movie robot?
I mean, he was in Star Trek movies, so
That's true.
Sure.
I also like those early episodes of Saved by the Bell where Screech owns a robot for some reason and it appears to be sentient.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It never explains, like, I guess he built the robot and the robot has like funny dialogue and I guess there's somebody puppeteering it somewhere, I'm assuming, since they didn't have robots like that in the 90s. But yeah.
Why did Screech have a robot? That was so fucking weird.
His name was Kevin.
I love that.
I don't know why I remember that.
Jesus.
Yeah, out of all the names, I feel like Kevin's the one that people go like, oh. Hence Laura's reaction.
Well, okay. So since I was a kid, I've always called groundhogs Kevins, and they're all named after each other so then I don't lose track. So groundhogs are Kevins and therefore are cute.
Okay.
So they're all Kevin?
So if you run into a groundhog in real life, you'll just be like, hey, Kevin.
It's a Kevin and it's very exciting.
What happens if there's two?
They're Kevins.
Ah, okay. A collection of groundhogs is known as the Kevins.
The Kevins. And my mom has actually adopted that too. So she'll just generally text me like, oh, there are some Kevins near the Walmart. And I'm like, oh, good. I was worried about those guys. So
I don't know. I think my favorite movie robot is from a movie that came out this year. And that's maybe like when you're a kid and you see a film and you're like, oh, that's the best film I ever saw, until you like see the next one. So my current favorite movie robot is actually the character that Anthony Carrigan plays in Bill and Ted Face the Music. And the thing is that I can't even say his name because it's probably a spoiler for that movie. I don't know, some of you guys haven't seen that movie yet, but he is far and away my favorite.
that's fair.
He steals that movie blind from underneath everybody else.
That's great. I actually just saw they did the prosthetics of the different body types on Bill and Ted. And it was actually really cool to watch. It was very informative. It was on Snapchat of all places.
I dug that movie, but then, you know, I'm a somewhat of a Keanu head.
Yeah.
This is Bad with Numbers, a podcast where we talk about terrible sequels. On this week's show, wow, we're talking Short Circuit 2 from 1988. Directed by Kenneth Johnson, who was a big TV guy. He made a lot of TV in the 70s and 80s, stuff like The Incredible Hulk, The Bionic Woman. He did the TV series V, which I was a big fan of growing up. This is probably his most notable film, and I can't imagine that there would be any reason why they wouldn't let him direct another one after this, because this movie is in no way problematic.
Disagree, but go on.
That's an understatement. Is that kind of the reason why you chose this film to do? Like, part of me was like, maybe it's because there's a lot of Toronto, and we're all from Toronto, so it's a bit of like, hey, look, we get to see Toronto in place of another city.
I mean, that was primarily my reason reason for choosing this movie, but then other issues with said movie came to light, and I think they've kind of taken precedent over the fact that this movie tries to pass off Toronto as New York.
Yeah.
Looking at the background of the scenes was the only thing that got me through this movie.
Actually, yeah.
Where I was constantly like, that's King Street!
I know, exact same. I was like, hey, wow, that's Eaton Center. It really hasn't changed that much.
Yeah, it looks basically the same.
Yeah.
Were you guys familiar with this franchise before I bestowed this upon you?
I have a vague recollection of watching it a lot as a child, but I don't actually remember that much about the movies, especially the first one.
I knew that it had brownface in it, so I kind of actively avoided it. Then I had to watch it for just, I guess, research purposes, or just trying to understand the history and the problems of Hollywood.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Laura, did you know this franchise?
No, I was about -7 when this franchise first came out. So yeah, I haven't heard much about this. So I didn't know that this existed. And it's very interesting because I didn't even know that this was filmed in Toronto. You would think that that would be a big flex, is that, you know, all of these movies. I know that in Casa Loma, they have all of these movies that have been filmed there.
Yeah, they have like the X-Men poster and stuff because it was used in the first X-Men movie, right?
Exactly. But and they've got like Scott Pilgrim and all that other stuff. But you would think that the Eaton Center would have something like, oh yeah, we have all of these movies. I don't know.
I don't know if having Short Circuit 2 on their promo reel
That is
actually
totally
that big
true.
of a selling point.
Yeah.
But it's weird that, like, this is a complete tangent, but, like, it's just funny when you live in a city how easily you recognize things when they appear in a show. Like, I remember, complete tangent, Grey's Anatomy, there was a stock footage of a store, and I was like, that's Eaton Center. And then that's it.
Yeah.
I was watching an episode of The Boys, the Amazon show, a couple of nights ago, and they stood outside the Home Depot that's like round the corner from my house. So yeah, it happens a lot.
They were doing the whole alleyway scenes a lot, and Cohen's like, I know where that is. And I'm like, why do you know the alleyway in Toronto of where this takes place? That's insane. But I don't know. I feel as though when you live someplace, you start picking up on the cues as to like where things are. And I don't know, even when it first showed her office where she's trying to pitch whatever toys, you could see like the girders, all of the steel crisscrossing. I'm like, is that in the Eaton Center?
Yeah.
There are offices above the Eaton Center.
There are, and that's where she took place, was in the Eaton Center.
Well, it opens in Dundas Square, and I was like, oh, that's what it used to look like.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay. I saw both of these movies in theaters because A, I'm old as fuck, and B, I went to the cinema a lot as a child. So I am very familiar with this franchise. I wasn't maybe as aware of its problems when I saw it when I was 8 years old. However, watching it now, goddamn.
Yeah.
I'll just fill you in on the plot.
Are we doing the 60-second thing? No, we're not.
I don't know if we can get this in 60 seconds because I'm going to do both movies.
Well, Roddy, what did I time at last week?
A lot more than a minute.
Well, she was summarizing 2 movies.
That's fair.
I didn't expect that she would summarize both. I thought we were just gonna do one.
Well, you know what? I'm very passionate about those movies, so
I'll give it 2 minutes just
Okay,
for
give it 2.
for shits and giggles.
all right,
Okay, but if it goes over 2 minutes, don't like give me shit about it.
we will.
Pressure, go.
Are you starting timing it?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck's sake. You should have said.
He said go.
Okay, so the first movie is about Number 5, an $11 million military robot that gains sentience after it's struck by lightning. It goes rogue and ends up hiding out in Astoria, Oregon with Ali Sheedy, who runs a food truck and is also an animal hoarder, ? Because she has like a bunch of skunks and raccoons and cats and dogs living all over her house. And I just thought, Laura, this is future you.
Absolutely.
Anyway, the robot learns a bunch of stuff by reading some encyclopedias and watching TV, and then it becomes achingly aware of its own mortality. So he and Sheedy go on the lam. Meanwhile, Steve Guttenberg and Fisher Stevens are the 2 nerds that created the robot. So they're also pursuing it while the military are trying to blow it up. Guttenberg and Sheedy fall in love. The robot tricks the military into blowing up an identical model of himself. And then they all fuck off to Montana to hide out at Guttenberg's father's farm for the rest of their days. The end of Short Circuit 1.
Oh, easy.
So the second movie begins with Fisher Stevens' character. He's been fired by the robotics company, and he's hawking toys of Johnny Five on the street. Michael McKean is flogging fake Rolexes next to him because he's the perfect scumbum. Toy company executive, played by Cynthia Gibb, comes across one of the toys, and Stevens immediately falls in love with her, as you do. And he and McKean agree to mass produce 1,000 units for her, even though Stevens is making these things by hand from the back of his van. The real number 5 rocks up by mail order at their skeezy warehouse to help out with the manufacturing, and he finds out that he's in a major metropolitan city, so he goes off on a sightseeing adventure to find input. At the same time, there's a gang of crooks who need access to the warehouse to tunnel into a bank across the street where a collection of diamonds are being held before an auction. The gang manage to dupe number 5 into helping them dig the tunnel, while Stevens is out trying to romance the toy executive lady. Number 5 figures out that he's being used by the gang, and he tries to shop them in, and they end up beating the living piss out of him, and he's basically left for dead. McKean, who had previously tried to sell number 5 because, like I said, he's a scumbum, helps fix him up, and then there is a very exciting chase sequence where number 5 wrangles up this criminal gang, and justice is eventually served. At the end, both number 5 and Stevens get their American citizenship right outside Queen's Park, which is in Canada. The end.
That was like 2 minutes and 30. Good job.
Oh, thanks. And with editing, even less.
Hey.
I mean, wants to make it a thing where there's like a time, like it's a reality show, but that's another discussion.
I've seen some of the movies that are on our docket for future episodes, and I'm just going to say good luck summing up some of this shit in 2 minutes.
I'll try. I want to try.
I'm going to have to fucking bleep that
Yeah.
for spoilers, but yeah, good luck, because fuck knows what that movie's about.
Just for future reference, I apologize to Neth as you're editing this, because I realize this is the 3rd time.
Don't worry about it. Okay, so that's the plot.
The bank heist thing is really stupid.
It's not the most well thought out bank heist.
They just barely get Johnny Five put back together, and then his first instinct is to go after a bunch of idiots that were robbing a bank. It's like, dude, you know who they are. Just call the police.
Why does he care so much? It's not like the diamonds were in any way relevant to him or anybody else in the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because he's having a hard time trusting people, right? So then he finally trusts these people and they betrayed him. So it's just like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to bring you in.
Oh, yeah, that is true. He does.
And then you'll be,
He does swear revenge against the guy that betrayed his trust.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a RoboCop scenario, right? He's going after the people that wronged him.
I don't know. That whole scene really kind of broke my heart because, like I said, I really fell in love with Johnny Five. I loved him. He was crazy charming. I really wish he wasn't in this movie. I really wish it was just him. Yep. Mucking about. I couldn't enjoy it though because of everything that was going on. You can't ignore it.
No, yeah. Basically, for me, as soon as this movie started on, and then what's the actor's name? Stephen Fisher or Fisher Stevens?
Fisher Stevens. His real name is Stephen Fisher. He changed it. His stage name is Fisher Stevens because somebody else was named Stephen Fisher, I guess.
Yeah, I think as soon as he rolls up and then he speaks, and you know that he's actually white, it's just like, oh,
yeah,
this movie's racist. And then for me at that point, I was like, oh, this is gonna be. I don't know if I can watch this.
Every moment he has with Sandy is like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
It is so fucking awkward. Like it is just. Sandy deserves a better movie. Sandy is friggin' adorable. She works at a toy company. She loves rock and roll music. She sits at home playing her electric guitar and singing, and she's actually really good at it. And that whole scene where they're locked in the freezer and they're punching in these different notes of songs, and her and the cab driver are deciphering the route via these songs. I could have watched a whole hour of that because that was vastly, to me, more interesting than the rest of the movie.
Agreed. Like her introduction with like, here's my invention with a hat that claps. I was like, you know what? That's not a bad invention. Like I would buy that.
I wouldn't buy it for my kid though. They'd be hella annoying.
She's introduced pretty early on. We don't get to meet the robot in this movie for like 20 fucking minutes because we've got so much of this fucking about with the diamond subplot, and also we're farting around with Fisher Stevens and Michael McKean. This movie starts out with them, like I said, they're selling stuff on what's meant to be Broadway, I think, in New York, but it's blatantly Yonge Street in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Did Yonge Street always look that grotty?
Yep.
I think it still does, doesn't it?
Kind of.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It looked pretty grim from that point.
Honestly, those mini Johnnies, just like, the one that kind of escapes into the mall, that's what I feel like when I'm shopping downtown at any moment, just like incredibly overwhelmed and just not where I was supposed to be, and I don't know where I am. I'm super lost. So
this little toy that goes on a walkabout is kind of cute.
I love him.
I would have happily just followed him farting around for
Absolutely.
90 minutes. I think he's actually in Sears.
Actually, it looked like he was in the. It looked like he was in the Bay.
It looked like the Bay.
Yeah, no, it probably is the Bay. It looked more classy than Sears. It probably was the Bay.
I was gonna say the marble flooring gave me Bay vibes.
That scene was like super cute, and a part of me was like, all right, maybe I could just focus on the robot. And then the robot went into the women's changing room, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to feel about this.
He's got the little like feather boa on him. He's so cute. I love him.
He didn't go into the changing room on purpose because he is a fucking toy. It's not like he had prior conviction to go in there.
I know. I guess in my head it was just kind of like who would create this joke? And in my head it's like I feel like it's probably a guy that created this joke.
Well, he never looked up, so I'm proud of him.
I don't think he could. Well, I guess his neck could move. I don't know.
He's selling these things for like $20. I'm pretty sure it wasn't like a fucking drone that had like a camera on it or anything.
Although that would be pretty funny if he was selling like military grade drone technology for $20 a on a street corner.
This is a big down step for his character from the first movie where he's making like $11 million robots and now he's making fucking toys out of the back of a van.
And also living in the van. And I was like, this is a sad story.
Yeah, it is. Maybe we could have had a little more of that because that's pretty fucking depressing.
But it's a family film.
Yeah,
it's almost like a family film shouldn't have a scene where a robot that keeps going on about how much he values his consciousness gets him living shit kicked out of him in a horrifying assault.
And then the battery fluid like sprays that guy's shirt, and
the guy's totally horrified, like, oh, maybe we should stop.
Yeah, I was pretty horrified, dude. I'm like, yes, you should stop.
Yes, it reminded me very strongly of that scene in Chappie where Chappie gets the shit kicked out of him. And Chappie had like the brain of like a toddler. That was just heroin.
We were just talking before we started recording about Chappie and how, for all intents and purposes, Chappie is a remake of what the original Short Circuit was meant to be before various people got involved and turned it into a family comedy. The original pitch for Short Circuit was it was a very kind of dark Terminator-inspired thriller where this robot goes fucking renegade and is just running amok in a small town until they decided it would be way better if they retrofitted a family comedy around it. But Chappie is a bad film. Yeah, Chappie's a bad film.
It had so many things going for it, and it was just depressing. They didn't give it anything. I don't know. There was just something lacking about it in terms of...
I remember it being like oppressively bleak.
It is. It's very bleak.
It's not a joyous film in any way.
My boyfriend and I watched it for our 5th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a night.
But it did star Dev Patel, so somebody learned from history.
Did any of you guys see A Personal History of David Copperfield?
No.
Dev Patel's the lead in that, and he is fucking fantastic in that film.
Is it out?
I think, yeah, I saw it at TIFF last year. I think it got like a release earlier in the summer when movie theaters were actually, open for a brief period of time.
Dev was the greatest.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't actually go to a movie theater when they were open because, fuck that. But
it's true that, you can actually hire a person of color to be a lead in a movie.
That Armando Iannucci movie does that really well in that it completely disregards any kind of ethnicity and even gender for its casting. Just basically picked people who he felt was right for the role.
I keep trying to think of this movie. I don't know, I had such weird mixed feelings where I felt like I should watch it because it's of its time and something, but it was just a hard watch. And a part of me is like, should people still watch this movie? And I'm like, I don't know how to answer that.
It's kind of like that. What movie was it that Mickey Rooney played a Chinese guy or
Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Yeah, and it's.
I mean, look, we've got a long and awful history of this kind of thing happening, and obviously Mickey Rooney's a famous one. Peter Sellers in The Party playing an Indian is also another fucking pretty horrific one. But this stuff's still been going on even recently, like Max Minghella.
Social Network?
Yeah, in Social Network is playing a Indian character. And I mean, there's some argument that Max Minghella has some Indian heritage, but it's pretty far back down the line because his father was from, I think it was the Isle of Wight in the UK, and also his mother was from Hong Kong. So I don't know.
Well, I guess for me, what like troubled me with watching this is just because it goes back to why people aren't hiring people of color right now. Because there's a lot of like reasonings where like it's just so hard to find people of color to be like to star in a film, or find someone with that much experience, and we need this certain caliber in order to like hire them. And I feel like maybe that was the reasoning back then. But then part of me is like, it makes no sense. How are you? It's like the whole thing with everyone trying to get a job right now, or just in general getting a job. Like, how is a person supposed to get this job if you're not giving them the experience to get the job?
People who want this are so much better than people who already have it, and they you know, it's given to them. So you can absolutely form people around, you know, what it is, right? So you have someone who's fresh-faced, they're not in any kind of, you know, hit anywhere, they are just straight, you know, from a small town somewhere, but they want to be there. They will make the performance. Like, you can't tell me that there isn't someone out there that can do it, because they absolutely can.
That actually ties in very nicely to talking about Fisher Stevens in this role.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's entirely at fault here. I mean, this performance comes from higher up the food chain than Fisher Stevens. That's not to say he's not complicit in this, but he was born in Chicago and he moved to New York to become an actor. He had a small role in John Sayles' Brother from Another Planet, and then in 1985 he lands a supporting role in the film My Science Project alongside Dennis Hopper. That film is a complete fucking flop, and so next up, he auditions for Short Circuit. Now, when he auditions for this movie, in the script, it's written as a waspy kind of character.
What is a waspy character? Sorry, that's for me that doesn't know that description.
Yeah.
What white Anglo-Saxon person?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Like somebody from the suburbs kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Upper middle class.
And that's what the character was written as originally. And then at some point in between when he first auditions for it and when they're actually getting around to casting, they rewrite the character as an Indian character, and I can only assume that the logic for doing that was because somebody somewhere found that funny.
Yeah,
that's like basically if you look at the movie, there's so many things where like with that character, it's just you're supposed to like laugh at his accent or what he say. Like I think there's a line where he's like the radio is on and then he was like, that's not English, and a part of me is like, I feel like there's a lot of
the humor in this is just kind of derived from his spoonerisms and him just like not, you know, saying sentences in the correct order, and that is a very tired fucking joke even by 1988 standards.
I mean, they might be going for kind of a parallel Stranger in a Strange Land thing, though in a really stupid way, the way they executed it. How he's apparently not a citizen yet or whatever, even though he worked for the military. This was a question that Brian brought up when we were watching it. Why isn't he a citizen?
In the first one, he's very much just like a peripheral character, and he kind of spits out some pretty misogynistic shit in that first movie as well. The way that he refers to Ali Sheedy's character is kind of crass and not very appealing for him as a person. So anyway, they actually don't offer Fisher Stevens the role. They offer it to Bronson Pinchot, who is also a white guy. And then he turned it down to play a Mediterranean character of unspecified origin on the 80s sitcom Perfect Strangers.
Oh, no.
I'm not overly familiar with Perfect Strangers. I think I've seen clips of his character, and again, it's very like, you should not be playing this role. Why the fuck are you doing this? So then they offer it back to Stevens, but for some reason they've decided to keep the role as that of an Indian gentleman. So Stevens ends up dyeing his hair, he darkens his skin with makeup, he goes off to India to like perfect the voice and the affectations. And then the first movie comes out and nobody really bats an eyelid about this because Stevens is just like such an unknown quantity at that point that people genuinely believe he's Indian. I'm not going to lie, as a kid, I genuinely believed he was Indian. And it was only when he rocked up in Hackers, like maybe 8 or 9 years later, that I was like, oh shit, Fisher Stevens is actually a fucking white guy.
And I think that's what makes it hurt so much.
Sure.
It's just like imagine like you see this movie and then you're a kid and you think, oh cool, there's like myself represented on screen. And then later in life, you're like, oh, it was a white guy. So basically your idol has been like, wasn't actually a representation of yourself all along. It's like everything is pulled underneath you.
That is exactly what they talk about in the episode of Master of None, the Aziz Ansari Netflix show, where basically they're watching Short Circuit 2 at the start of that episode, and Aziz Ansari's Indian friend does not know that Fisher Stevens is a white guy. And I think Aziz Ansari actually had a conversation with Fisher Stevens in 2015, and it's not fully documented what they said, but I think there was kind of like a conversation happened about why Stevens took that role. And I think, Stevens conceded that there is no way in hell that anybody other than an Indian person should play that role if they were to make it in 2015 or whenever that conversation happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to like how Stevens isn't entirely at fault here, I mean, there's a quote from John Badham, who directed the first movie. I think somebody challenged him at some point about the use of Stevens as an Indian character, and Badham's response was that people were overly sensitive.
Oh, fuck.
And it has gotten to the point where you can't make fun of anyone.
Oh.
I mean, that's a pretty reprehensible take on this, right?
Like he's admitting there that the intention was a broad racial humor.
I think for me, when I hear that, it's always some sort of person that is clearly being racist, but will vehemently deny that they're being racist. It's like he's trying to get away with not saying like, he's just trying to get away. He's trying to find an excuse to say that, no, I'm not at fault. It's other people's perceptions, other people's feelings that are at fault. I am not in the wrong. And so and that's still happening today.
It's very much a I'm sorry you're offended kind of fucking response.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
Fucking slimy.
It is. But I mean, like I say, it still happens. I mean, just look at the fucking Simpsons, right?
Yeah, and what's his face? The actor actually felt really bad that because he was invited to be in that documentary, and either he turned it down or his agent did because he didn't understand what it was, and then he felt horrible afterwards.
Do you mean Hank Azaria?
Yeah, like he was asked to be in the documentary and he turned it down, and then he felt like shit about it and he publicly apologized. And I mean, he voices like a bazillion characters in that show, so to him, like, it's nothing to not voice that character anymore.
I mean, the Simpsons are guilty of it. I mean, they've taken steps to. I mean, even fucking Big Mouth just this year has recast. Jenny Slate was playing the character of Missy.
I think it's always the reason why people let it slide back then is their excuse of like, well, it's animation, but like it that doesn't fly. Like it should not fly then, and hopefully it won't fly ever again.
Yeah, I mean, opportunities are opportunities, regardless, and representation needs to be there.
But I think what it is that like even if you look at reviews for this film like now, or like even say for example with the recent decision from the Oscars to have a certain criteria in order to apply for best film, you can see people are still adamantly against anything that pushes or tries to fight for diversity and inclusion. This is why like even people like what's her face? Oh god, she's in Drop Dead Gorgeous and look who's talking to
Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, she was actively against not actively against, but she did not appreciate the diversity inclusion and saying how it's so like even today something like, and then even response when Spike Lee was like it's he's at least accepting like at least it's something in the right direction. Everyone's just started trashing Spike Lee and about like how like his movies are trash now and he's only angry and that's why he's angry at this.
Okay, right. So a couple of things to distill from this. One, who in the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is giving the remotest of fucks about what Kirstie Alley has to say about this?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, no offense to... And I loved Kirstie Alley as a kid. I was, infatuated with her, but she's not exactly what we would call a heavy fucking hitter these days. And 2, who the fuck is saying that Spike Lee is only making trash?
I know, but that's, I think, what it is when you look at these movies like Short Circuit 2, and even, I think it just shows, and that's why I guess it was such a hard watch, is that it's still an ongoing battle and something that, like, it needs to be fought every single day, because there's people that are always going to be on the side of you're oversensitive, or like, this is unfair.
The Lone Ranger came out in 2013.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Figure that out, right?
I forgot that even existed. What?
And Johnny Depp tried to cover that up by being like, "Oh well, I have some Cherokee ancestry."
No,
he never
no.
specified what, like he didn't seem to know what tribe he was related to, if he was related to any. Like, it was just fucking tacky.
Yeah, I mean, you had fucking Fred Armisen playing Obama on SNL, for fuck's sake. It's just,
oh God, what?
I mean, talking of SNL, one of the prime offenders in this whole fucking thing is Rob Schneider. When you think about all the roles that he has played in those Adam Sandler movies, where he's playing like a Hawaiian guy in 50 First Dates, and he's playing like a Middle Eastern guy in Big Daddy. Yeah, that shit is just not cool. But also, he's an anti-vaxxer, so fuck that guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's weird. Will Ferrell played an Arab guy in Austin Powers.
I forgot about that.
He did?
I don't think he did a very good job. He just looked like Will Ferrell with, I mean, he kind of put on a voice and he wore a fez, but that was about as much.
Oh yeah.
Because when I watched it, I don't think I actually thought of the character as actually being Arab. I think I just thought of him as a stupid villain whose shtick was wearing a fez. That's how it came across to me in the 90s.
I think it's more insidious than that, I think.
Oh yeah. Because I was a dumb teenager. I didn't get that that's the joke they were going for, because they were probably trying to make fun of James Bond.
But yeah, I've been watching a lot of old SNL, and just some of this representation in that show is fucking shocking. There you go. Thanks the Peacock for putting all those episodes up for free so that I can pick them apart like that.
I mean, I guess it's important to watch. Like, you don't have to watch it. Like, I feel like you could read an article about it, but I feel like I'm trying to understand if I regret watching this. I don't know if I have an answer for that, but I think it just shows that historically where we're at and how much we still need to kind of go through.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hoping that, like, there will continue to be a light shined on this to the point where we don't have fucking stuff like this happening in the near future. I mean, but like I say, even as recently as like Social Network, that was only like, what, 10 years ago this shit was happening.
Well, I mean, Scarlett Johansson, I mean, that's the endless kind of conversation there. Like, she's just... I also disagree with the stance of I'm an actress. That's just what that's my job, is to take on different roles, and it's like, no, that's not part of it.
Emma Stone in Aloha played a girl that was half Hawaiian.
That made no sense at all.
And then after the fact, she was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess that would upset people.
Oh, Cameron Crowe, what happened to you? You used to be so great.
Yeah, until people get it through their heads that excuses don't work. Like, that's exactly what it is that you're trying to convince yourself that what you did was not a horrible thing to do, and you didn't just take an opportunity away from somebody who needed it.
I think that was part of the conversation that Ansari and Stevens had, was that Stevens at least copped to it and didn't try and like justify it in any other way than he saw an opportunity to be a lead in a big budget movie, and he was willing to just kind of like roll with it.
Yeah,
I think with movies like this, it just goes to show like how important it is to have diversity behind the screen, because I feel like there were parts of the story, like again with like identity and individuality, and like particularly with the robot, like that was like, oh, this seems like it's going somewhere. But I think because I don't know, who is the scriptwriter? Like, were they of color or were they
a couple of guys? I can't remember their names off the top of my head.
Because like I find sometimes there's a lot of stories that are told, like I get the point of like, I don't know, there's the argument of research, but like in the end of the day, like someone that's lived that experience is able to authentically tell the story. And I feel like whatever story they're trying to tell here was never going to fly, was never going to feel authentic.
I kind of feel like the problem with this movie is that it's insanely hypocritical in the message of the movie appears to be that you can gain acceptance just by being yourself. And yet here we are with a guy in brownface being anything but himself.
Hollywood.
Yeah, if the movie was aiming to make people respect the immigrant experience a little bit more, it's deeply disrespectful to have a white guy playing the immigrant in the movie.
Yeah.
Particularly at the end, when you see all the diversity and the people of color all like getting their residency, and you're like, that could have been any of your leads.
Yeah, that scene was jarring.
I also found it jarring that right after the scene of Johnny Five getting the shit kicked out of him, a guy gets hit in the butt with a plane.
Oh.
Okay.
Because he controls the planes remotely while he's dying, and then he hits one of the guys in the butt with a remote controlled airplane.
Yeah, what was the deal with the planes?
I was like, wow, that's a tonal shift right there. We went straight from a brutal assault to
gag
physical comedy.
Why were all these guys flying these planes outside Roy Thompson Hall, which for people who don't know, Toronto is like literally right in the heart of the city, where I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to fly aircraft down there.
Well, not anymore.
There's a major international airport literally down the street from there. So,
well, I wouldn't say down the street, but
I mean, it's not that far away.
Oh, sorry, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Billy Bishop. Billy Bishop's like, you know.
Well, I wouldn't call Billy Bishop major either, but it is an airport and it does exist.
They weren't flying those planes. They weren't flying those planes at a high.
At the time, it was not a commercial airport. At the time, it was a private airport.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
They've only been flying commercial flights out of there since, I want to say 2008 is when
okay.
Yeah.
Porter opened in 2008. And then somewhere halfway in between then and now, they started flying short Air Canada flights out of there. So
Porter Airlines, I miss them because they give you free booze and free snacks when you fly them.
Yep.
I never knew they were free.
Were you paying some dude for your free cookies, Rodey, when you took Porter?
No, I've just always been like, whenever I see something like, oh, that probably costs money, so I just don't even ask for it. And I'm probably like, should have asked for it.
No, you just take it, and then if somebody asks for money, then you cop to it.
There is stuff in the terminal that you have to pay for, but there's also like baskets of like free cookies and water and stuff. It's the same shit they give you when you're on the plane.
And that concludes our segment on airline chatter.
I know, that was like heated for a bit. I was like, we're talking about like, I wanted to argue like they weren't flying those planes that high.
But then they shouldn't be flying them in the middle of a major metropolitan city then, should they?
No, we had the same question. We were like, is that a thing that people did in the 90s? In the middle of Toronto was 5 fucking planes next to Roy Thompson Hall? We're like, that's pretty badass.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be New York? So, I mean, I feel like that's even fucking worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Middle of New York, a bunch of like little plane things, you know, cutting off traffic and shit.
Fucking annoying plane hobbyists. Maybe it was a protest.
Maybe.
I did kind of like have a laugh and chuckle the fact that they did like nothing to hide the fact that it was Toronto.
Yeah. Well, when they blatantly fucking call out Lakeshore at the like very last.
Yes, I saw that. They've turned on to Lakeshore, and they were literally turning on to Lakeshore. I'm like, wait, hold on.
There aren't any lakes in New York or around New York City. What the fuck are they talking about? But yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was. It was. I don't know if they said that on purpose. I think they did. They just left that in as a nod to Toronto, I guess, which is nice.
I mean, they left that in, and they left all the locations in, and they left all the street signs in. They left a streetcar in. I'm pretty sure New York doesn't have streetcars.
The bus she came off was going to St. Clair Station.
That's right.
They added a bunch of yellow cabs, which I'm pretty sure Brian pointed out. There's probably just a garage full of New York taxi cabs, New York style taxi cabs somewhere in Toronto that they use for every film shoot.
True.
But other than that, they didn't change anything. They just added friggin' cabs and like changed a couple of signs.
Yeah. There was actually, it was when Johnny Five had just broken out, and there was a Canadian bank or something like that, like right behind it, and it said Canadian blah 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 blah.
I saw that. That's right.
We just started laughing. It's like, oh, you didn't even try, darling. Like there were some U.S. flags every now and then, and it was really actually kind of jarring to see the final scene with all the U.S. flags. I'm just like, that's not right.
They're getting sworn in as citizens of Ontario.
I guess it's funny in regards to representation. It's like also representation of your own city. Because a part of me feels like the only time, like the things that were getting me through this was just, again, we talked about it earlier, is just seeing Toronto. And it let me think of all the other movies that I watched just because it's Toronto, like Scott Pilgrim. Like I feel like I watch it a lot.
Oh, I love that movie.
Just because like it's saying, hey, this is Toronto. We're not going to like hide it as anything else.
There's two of my favorites in that where Casaloma and Chris Evans are together.
Yes.
Like that little part it makes my heart happy.
Scott Pilgrim is one of the rare movies that wears Toronto on its sleeve, and I kind of appreciate that about that film because so many things shoot here that just try and pass it off. It's like Shazam, the DC movie.
Oh.
I remember walking past them shooting that scene where a bus is like dangling off a bridge. They were shooting it down at the docks. They had a big bus suspended on a crane, and I was like, holy shit, what's going on here? And some guy's like, oh, they're shooting a DC film. I was like, oh, I don't fucking care, whatever. Carried on walking. But
as soon as you're a DC, you're like, oh.
But they try and pass that shit off as Philadelphia, and that high school that kid goes to is like literally in my neighborhood, and that annoyed me no end.
There was some Santa movie on Netflix that was recently shot in Toronto.
Which one?
I feel like I should know this.
Was it the Kurt Russell one?
Yes. Yeah, it was Kurt Russell, and it was
Santa Chronicles.
Yes.
Oh, that thing.
Remember that time we drunkenly almost stumbled onto a filming like area?
What? Was that here?
I feel like it was you know where our school used to be? There was that church area, Moss Park.
Oh yeah.
Just off of Moss Park, and they had just finished their final shot and was actually like wrapping up.
If they were shooting in Moss Park, it was definitely an anti-drugs commercial.
I hope so.
Kim's Convenience? Because I know like they get the...
Oh, the actual Kim's Convenience is down the street from that. So yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah, I don't know. You could just literally stumble on anything in Toronto now that, you know, they've kind of bumped the budget, I guess.
What have been your favorite places or movies that you accidentally stumbled upon?
You mean in real life, as in the set?
Yeah. Where you're like, ooh, what's this? I think the only thing famous I stumbled upon is like, oh, look, it's Suits. But I feel like everyone who's lived in Toronto can say that.
Yeah, Suits is a pretty common one. I've seen them filming Handmaid's Tale around about here. They were filming, I think HBO Max are doing a reboot of Gossip Girl. They were literally filming that at the end of my street.
No way! I don't know. I'm excited for that. If I were with you, I probably would have freaked a little bit.
I don't know the show, so I couldn't have cared less. All I knew was that it was turning into my street a nightmare because there was fucking utility trucks parked everywhere.
Was it all people in their mid-20s playing teens?
I don't think I saw a single member of the cast. I just saw a lot of union guys all standing around telling people not to fucking linger. So I don't know.
That's a very hard job.
It is.
I imagine it is, yeah.
Yeah, management.
People get angry if you don't let them cross the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, I've stumbled on, like I say, I stumbled onto like when they were shooting Shazam, but I kind of notice things in movies. Like I was watching the fucking remake of Flatliners, which came out in like 2017. It had Ellen Page in it. Fucking terrible remake of a fairly mediocre original movie. But again, it was filmed just round the corner from my house, like a couple of scenes. And that was the only reason I sort of sat through that film, was to point out locations that I knew.
Ooh, another note. Are any of you guys in movies? Like accidentally as an extra?
I was on an episode of Jay's Journal for Discovery Channel one time, but that was on purpose because that one of our teachers also worked at Discovery Interactive, and so he worked on Jay's Journal as like a photographer and a web editor. So we got to play extras on this segment where Jay was explaining a concept.
Do you have a video? Because I would love to see that.
I don't think I have it anymore. This was my first post-grad diploma at Centennial. It was filmed at Centennial. My class was the extras for this segment. This was way the hell back in 2005, I think. I
still think it's fun. I feel like we've all been in some sort of, maybe not like a TV show, but we've all been in some sort of version of a Toronto talk show.
Oh yeah, shit.
You were in the crowd, Neth, right?
Yeah, I've had some cameo appearances on daytime TV shows. Yeah, don't look that up.
We have GIFs that we specifically use.
I know.
Oh yeah. You'd like very specifically watch through them so then you could give us, right?
Yeah, I work hard to embarrass my friends.
It's wonderful.
Really appreciate that.
I'm in a commercial for work, very briefly.
Okay.
I'm in two of them technically. The first one was 2 years ago, and it was on the eve of my anniversary, and they're like, okay, you're gonna be pretending to date this other guy, and I was just like, oh shit, I'm missing my anniversary so that I can pretend to be this guy's girlfriend. Great. So yeah, all you see is me come in the background and point to like a game, and it's like, wow, we should buy this. It's so good. We're Christmas shopping. But also, I just remembered that I looked after Josh Hutchinson's dog.
Hutcherson.
Hutcherson. His dog while he filmed Zathura.
Oh, cool.
What? That's super cool.
Which was in Canada. Yes. That was when I was baby. It was like my first volunteer job at like some dog daycare.
Aw.
And they're like, this is Josh, he's gonna be a big movie star. And we're like, yeah, whatever.
Rude.
When I was younger, I was just like, ooh, he handsome. I hope so. And look, there he is.
Hey, Josh Hutcherson in the movie Detention, which is a fucking awesome film. Did you guys see that? I can't remember if we watched Detention.
We did. I think you made us watch it.
I didn't make you watch it. It wasn't like I fucking held you at gunpoint.
I always find that was really awkward when someone recommends you a movie and there's a bit of pressure. Well, either you watch it, Neth.
It's why I don't demand anybody watches anything anymore. I just toss out recommendations, but if you don't watch it, that's on you, man. It is of no consequence to me if people don't watch stuff that I recommend.
I got 2 movies lined up, but neither of them in Toronto, so
I don't know. I was convinced for a very long period as a child that I was an extra in the movie Freejack, which, if you don't know, is a fucking terrible early 90s sci-fi movie starring Emilio Estevez, Anthony Hopkins, and fucking Mick Jagger.
Really?
Wow.
Because I was in New York in 91 and we saw a car chase being filmed. And the only thing in my mind that lined up that came out not long after it was the movie Freejack, which is set in New York and features several car chases. And I was kind of convinced that I'd witnessed the shooting of this movie for a long part of my childhood, only to find out that entire movie was shot in Atlanta.
Oh,
and I don't know what the fuck they were filming in New York, so I'll never know what it was. But it may have just been a real car chase. I don't know.
It might have been an episode of a cop show or something.
Maybe. I think this predates NYPD Blue, but it was around that time.
Recently, I think I mentioned this. I was watching an episode of MST3K, and I noticed that the movie they were featuring, which is called Overdrawn at the Memory Bank,
starring Raul Julia, yeah,
that was shot in Toronto. And I noticed because there's this one brief shot of a subway platform, and I thought that looks like Yorkdale. Like, no, that can't be Yorkdale, can it? And then I looked it up, and I'm like, oh shit, it was shot in Toronto. I mean, most of the movie takes place in like an office building.
Cohen and I were gonna try and go to Schitt's Creek,
the actual town.
Yeah, because it's Uxbridge.
Do it.
Yeah, it's only about a half an hour away from us. We were gonna go, and then we found out that the Rosebud Motel is actually up for sale. So
dang,
we could all chip in and buy it.
Well, that's it's a great franchising opportunity.
I feel like with this movie now, we should try to make a bucket list to at least be an extra. Because I realize that none of us are extras in a Toronto-based or set film.
I don't know, man. Being an extra is a lot of shit. You standing around and fucking getting harangued by people.
But it's like a cool bucket list.
I give some asshole $100 to put me on a list and take my picture. That sounds weird now saying it that way, but
yeah, it really does.
He only ever called me back once, and I already had a job by that point.
I mean, you shouldn't be paying anybody any money to get on a fucking agency list. Oh, that's even worse.
I was so desperate for work at the time. I'm like, what am I doing?
No, we've all been there. I
felt so dirty afterwards.
This movie. Where were we with this film? I don't know. We weren't really anywhere with it.
Oh, great.
This robot. I know he's cute and adorable, but he is a real chatty Cathy in this film. He's jibber jabbering his way through this film, and it kind of gets pretty wearisome as it goes along. But
was it actually a robot? That sounds dumb. I know this sounds dumb.
So I was watching the gag reel from this movie, and it was very much a full functioning puppet. Like, he was very autonomous on set, which I think was kind of impressive for 1988, because obviously, like I say, with Chappie, it was all just fucking mostly CGI and whatnot. So, but when he rocks up at the warehouse, when they get him like delivered by FedEx or whatever, he's talking about all his upgrades, and he says that, and I know that this is old tech, but he says that he has a 500 megabyte memory upgrade. And I'm thinking, wow, he now has the same amount of memory as an iPhone 4.
I loved that so much. I'm like, oh yeah, megabytes. That was a thing. And that was huge. And that's fantastic for him.
That was a lot back then. 500 megabytes, that was a lot. Our first PC had like 8.
Yeah, same. I remember having a fucking Atari ST that had half a megabyte memory and thinking that was some hot shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is that it has the word mega in it, so then you think that that's big and cool and awesome.
What's past giga?
A terabyte.
Oh, okay. I know nothing about high-tech stuff.
So yeah, we were talking about they shot a lot of this downtown. Could you imagine being a kid and seeing this robot just rolling around the streets of Toronto? There are no kids in this movie. They obviously had to like shoo them all away from filming location.
Yeah.
I would have fucking lost my mind if I saw Johnny Five just rolling down the street.
Yeah.
Honestly, I lost my mind just seeing it in a movie. So
you were really taken with this robot, right?
I love him so much. I don't know what it is, but I care for him deeply.
I mean, he's cute, right? He's cute.
It's very cute.
He's the main character of the story, isn't he? Like, I feel like
absolutely
no one else has like a good storyline that you'd want to follow. Maybe Sandy? I don't know, but they kind of brushed her off.
They brushed her off.
I mean, what is Sandy's storyline other than she's being catfished by Fisher Stevens? It's fucking.
She's trying to find a product that she can pitch that her boss will approve so that she can make it in the corporate toy world. You know, it's about her having a career and stuff.
So maybe the movie should have just made her the fucking focus then. Maybe we could have just completely dispensed with like McKean and Stevens as characters. I mean, I'm not sure why Fisher Stevens was brought back ahead of maybe Ali Sheedy or Steve Guttenberg, who were very much the leads of the first movie.
So wait, is there a Short Circuit 3?
No, there was a script being batted around in sort of 89, 90, but then Short Circuit 2 flopped, and basically people decided it probably wasn't worth the hassle.
Good. But is that what you guys would do, is have it follow Sandy instead?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think the original pitch for the third movie was going to be the military character, like the main military guy from the first movie, was enraged that this robot was still out there after all the other models had been destroyed. And I think he kind of goes on like a vengeance quest to bring down this robot.
It's terrifying.
Yep. Or, like, I'm surprised they didn't write a script where they make him a girlfriend or something.
Oh.
Bride of Frankenstein. Also, that part really made me so sad, where like he's just reading the books and it's Frankenstein and Pinocchio, and I'm just like, no, he can't be reading those. He's too sensitive.
He goes to the world's biggest bookstore, which used to be on Edward Street in Toronto. That place smelled funny.
A lot of old books.
That's my only memory of that place, is that it smelled kind of weird. But I was very excited to go in there the first time I ever came to Toronto because of this movie. So, yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of moments where you actually feel for the robot. Like there's that moment in the bookstore, and there's one at the park. I want to say it's Birchsea Park, whatever. The one that's on Front Street. Yeah, where some woman comes up and just calls him, just makes fun of him, says he's like ugly and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks at the mirror and essentially internalizes all of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah. Do you know what was more heartbreaking for me was seeing Birchsea Park without all of the dog statues that are now in that park.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Where we once witnessed Laura have a full-blown meltdown, slightly drunk, hugging a lot of statues of dogs.
For those that don't know, there's a fountain in that park that's essentially a whole bunch of dogs gathering around a large water fountain.
It's adorable.
It's amazing. It's the best thing I've ever seen, and I didn't know that it existed until you guys showed me, which is why it was just such a moment for me.
So McKean tries to sell him for because he finds out he's worth $11 million. And Johnny Five flips out and he jumps out of a window, and oh, what a surprise, he's got like a hang glider in his utility pack. So he's like soaring around the Toronto skyline. The whole time I was like, just fucking show the CN Tower, I fucking dare you.
Oh, see, for me, I was thinking that it was better blue screen than The Mummy Returns, and I wasn't ready to admit that.
Yes.
We were perplexed that people on the ground were like, what the hell is that? And we're like, it's a fucking hang glider, dude. You guys never seen a hang glider before.
But it has a robot on it.
That's not a robotic airplane. What is that? That's not allowed in our airspace.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I guess it is a robotic airplane. Shit.
Robot-powered airplane.
Yeah, damn.
He's the original fucking drone. A fucking Dalek on a hang glider.
Oh, how sad that he works for Amazon now.
Ouch.
That's what Johnny Five does in 2020. He's just delivering packages for Jeff Bezos.
Okay, who outweighs which robot in your eyes is better, Wally or Johnny Five?
Oh,
Wally, hands down.
Yeah, I do love Wally.
There we go.
That's actually tough. I don't know if I can call that.
Yeah, no words spoken, but Wally, squeaked his way into my heart.
Yeah, Wally is kind of adorable.
I think we figured out the best robot.
No, I'm sticking with the Bill and Ted guy.
No, Wally is great. Also, Eva is great. That whole movie.
The better robot movies to watch if you don't want to watch Short Circuit 2.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna plug that one. You should watch that one instead.
Yeah.
Wally is basically just Johnny Five, but without people trying to kill him.
Yeah, and without the overt racism as well.
Exactly.
We didn't talk about the Mexican gang.
Oh god, no! I just
Kill all the stereos.
Every time we try and steer this movie away from being horribly racist, we just seem to wheel it back around to another incident.
That also reminded me of Chappie. That I
Yes.
was like, ooh, that's a weird parallel to have.
Well, I feel maybe that's where Chappie might have come from, is that idea that he's brought into a gang and, told something completely different so that he thinks he's doing right.
I feel like somebody watched the first half hour of Short Circuit 2 or just watched
That's all I could get through.
2 and they were like, I can do better.
Yeah.
And then they didn't.
Oof.
Yeah, this gang, they're kind of boosting car stereos, and it's very kind of crass and not particularly pleasant to see. Are they meant to be Hispanic?
the fact that they don't even bother, it's just kind of like, yeah, that's basically.
Yeah, and then Johnny Five comes back to the warehouse wearing clothes that look like theirs and talking in their accents.
Oh my god.
We don't need that from this robot.
Yeah, but someone was like, "Oh, this will be a laugh." Like, no, it's not.
And then the guy who was looking after him, who was a white guy playing an East Indian dude, yelled at him and told him to take all that crap off.
Yeah, it's so wrong. Let's talk about this scene, the Cyrano de Bergerac scene in this movie, where Fisher Stevens and Cynthia Gibb go on the date, and Stevens is being fed the lines from a fucking billboard that Johnny Five is controlling. I don't know, that just didn't sit right with me.
He can control billboards, but when he's dying, he chooses to hit somebody in the butt with an airplane. So I don't know.
His power has weakened.
I mean, first off, I feel like there don't even need to be a romance in it. Like when that scene happened, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this."
Yeah.
Like, I guess there's a love story in this.
No, and I mean, I feel as though that kind of goes through the thread again, where it's just like they couldn't. So we've run into 2-3 movies where it's just like, I don't know where the movie ends. It's right now. Okay, great. So then they just rush something. We've had 3 endings in this movie, and I would have been happy with any of them.
What's the first ending?
First ending could have just been like, I can't remember this movie. I just saw it like an hour ago.
They saved Johnny Five from imminent death.
Yes, that could have been it. And then the second one could have been the end of the bank heist area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's so many where I'm just like, oh, we're done now? Oh, it was only 40 minutes in? Okay. And then another 40 minutes and it's, oh, we're done now? No? Okay.
It's the reason why you thought it had like 3 endings. It's just you just wanted it to end when it could.
Yeah, I was looking for it.
This movie is long for a family film from the 80s. This movie's nearly 2 hours long. And there's a lot of shit in here that doesn't need to be in here. Although I kind of like the scene, and I think we talked about it earlier, I kind of like the scene where McKean and Stevens have been kidnapped and shoved in a freezer somewhere in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And they're using like a calculator to try and emulate these songs to give Cynthia Gibbs' character clues as to their location.
I love that whole sequence. It's great.
Yeah, they use Downtown by Petula Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Tempted to tell my Petula Clark story.
Do it.
Yep.
I don't know, it's pretty gross.
Oh.
Do it and we can edit out if it's not good.
Okay, we're probably going to edit this bit out of the podcast.
Oh, I can't wait for more elevator music. my God.
I bet he was waiting all day to say that.
That's a mic drop.
I just love that story because it's probably absolute fucking bollocks, but I don't know. The fucking look on Roddy's face says it all.
I think it's what's rough because there's all these people that are like these movies that are such dear to people's hearts, and then I guess when they're recommended to me, I'm like, it's like I don't know if I can watch that.
That's fair.
Yeah, like people get a nostalgic attachment to things. Like I've had people talk about how much they love Star Trek the original series, and they have a very different interpretation of some of the things that happen in that series than I do. It's very strong in certain parts, in certain aspects of it, but there are also certain aspects of it that are extremely dated.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if we want to wheel back around to the brownface thing, the character of Khan was originally written to be Indian, and yet, I mean, you kind of got away with it slightly with Ricardo Montalban playing him in the Rafa Khan. What you don't get away with is Benedict Cumberbatch, who is probably the whitest motherfucker that ever lived, playing him in Into Darkness.
They could have just changed his name and made it a different clone story. Like, I don't know. I mean, Star Trek has had so many different stories about people being unfrozen from the past that, like, it's not even, they would have obviously been ripping off Wrath of Khan, but at the same time, it's not like, I mean, it was a different enough story anyways, how he's introduced that.
Is that an episode?
In the series? Yeah.
No, I mean, is that an episode of this podcast, Into Darkness?
I don't want to rewatch that movie, but
that probably means it's an episode.
I was going to say that's usually.
If you have reservations about watching it, it means we're probably going to have to do it.
I think it would come down to Nemesis or Into Darkness, I think.
Whoa, no, what about Final Frontier? That one's stinky.
That one is really fun to make fun of, which is why a lot of people have made fun of it.
Is there a Star Trek month?
Oh, I don't know if I could do a month. I think a month might be a stretch.
Agreed. I haven't watched any of the Star Trek films except for the one with Chris Pines.
The first one, 2009.
Although part of me segued like Princess Diaries too.
No, wait. The Chris Pine Star Trek has John Cho,
yep,
who may well pop up in an episode that we're going to do in the near future on a certain fucking bawdy teenage sex franchise.
Oh.
Too.
I feel like all of this is going to be edited out because it's all spoilers.
For a second there, my brain went to Harold and Kumar, and I was like, are we doing Harold and Kumar? And I'm like, oh, right.
Oh, we're spoiling so much future content in this episode, just to avoid talking about shows again.
I don't know. Now I feel like it's out of my system, and I can never I'm happy to never watch it again. But also happy to point it out when someone says, like, it's like, we're super diverse now. We don't have to worry about anything. I'm like, and just point out this movie and the history.
The thing about Johnny Five reading Pinocchio, I haven't read the entirety of Pinocchio, but what little I know about the book, Pinocchio's a dick in the book. He's a little brat.
He's a little Brahms.
The Disney movie makes him endearing.
He's a little problem child.
Oh my God.
So if the book was anything like the Disney movie, it would make sense that Johnny Five was reading it. But the book is...
Frankenstein's monster ain't exactly got his nose clean either. I mean, he drowns a fucking child, right? You know?
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers.
I'm sorry for spoiling a book that's 120 years old.
I read it quite a while ago.
Okay, so maybe that doesn't happen in the book, but it definitely...
in the movie.
It definitely happens in the Boris Karloff movie from the 30s.
In the book, he gets chased by some villagers. He hides in a shed next to a family's house and spies on them for like a month. Then he tries to introduce himself to the blind grandpa. Then the rest of the family comes home, flips out, screams at him. Then he runs away, and he tries to get Victor Frankenstein to make him a girlfriend. Victor Frankenstein gets halfway through the project, changes his mind, rips up what he's already done, which just enrages the monster, and then the monster goes and kills his fiance.
So, I mean, he's still kind of a dick.
Yes, he does it out of rage, and also he has no emotional control because it's a monster who started off with the brain of a toddler and then was horrifically abused. But yeah, he kills Victor Frankenstein's fiance and I think his best friend. And then he kills himself. Spoiler alert. He sits in the middle of a glacier and lights himself on fire.
I remember the Kenneth Branagh movie. Oh, that's a bad film. Johnny Five, where were we? He gets brutalized by this gang after he realizes that they're being nefarious. And yeah, I know we've already talked about it, but fucking hell, this robot takes a beating in this. And it is heartbreaking. And I think there was some poll of it being one of like the most disturbing scenes in a children's film.
Well, they didn't need the spray of motor oil that looked like blood. Now, did they? Like that took it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that it gets a response from that character where he's like, what have I done? But at the same time, I must have seen this as a child. I don't know why this did traumatize me. I guess I was just not paying that much attention when I was watching this.
He is hobbling down the street in this movie, carrying his arm. And it just reminded me of Saving Private Ryan, because there is a very similar shot in that movie where a soldier is like standing on the beach and holding his severed arm. I was like, holy fuck, this is meant to be for kids. This is traumatic.
Yeah, you can't spend 3/4 of a movie saying this robot is a person and deserves to be treated like one, and then have him horrifically assaulted. You know, if you go to all that trouble to, you know, to give a character that much humanity, you can't just, you know, it has a very different effect than if
they basically beat the humanity out of him. It's fucking
like nobody gives a shit when 3PO gets his his arms and legs ripped off. It's I mean, he didn't die or anything, but we're like, yeah, whatever, it's hilarious. Like, we don't care because there's a certain borderline there in terms of like he's like a person but not.
Right.
I'm actually like flashing back to other kind of sad robot movies. Iron Giant and AI, were those sad for robots?
The whole flesh fair sequence of AI is pretty disturbing, where all the robots are being pitted against one another for the amusement of people. That's kind of sad.
I remember Iron Giant being really, really sad.
What's up with robots having sad films? They can have happy endings.
Even Rutger Hauer at the end of Blade Runner, when he's like giving the speech about seeing the lights or whatever. I don't remember the specifics of the speech, but that's sad.
It is.
So I'm going to say iRobot is the best film now because at least it has a happy ending for robots.
I mean, no, but okay. Jesus.
But it's back to WALL-E.
Yeah, I think I'll take WALL-E over iRobot any day.
Yeah.
So yeah, they beat the shit out of Johnny Five, and then he gets fixed. He goes on like this fucking pursuit of these guys. And there's a bit where he swings out across the lake to try and pick up a guy with a speedboat. And I'm just thinking, how many times did they shoot that and lose puppets of this robot in the lake? And should we go hire a boat to see if we can find them? Because I bet you there are Johnny Fives sat at the bottom of Lake Ontario still.
That scene shows how important sometimes the music soundtrack is, because I didn't care what was happening, but I need to hear what's playing.
Oh yeah, my God.
The use of Bonnie Tyler at the end of this movie is
that's
superb.
Right. I was just like, I love this. It's great.
So much better than Shrek 2.
I was singing along to that, and I didn't give a shit about the scene. I was just singing
It's
to it.
such a rousing use of that song at the end of this movie.
I don't know. I could feel the tragedy coming, and I was just like, no, this is the last stand. It's like in Shrek 2 with Mongo.
Oh, no.
I liked it better in Shrek 2, to be honest, but I like the song either way, so.
I'll take the use of it in this over Shrek 2, thanks. But
I mean, Shrek 2 I liked better than the first Shrek.
Yes. Yeah, overall is a better movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I just feel like it's just a better movie.
There's another example of somebody not Scottish doing a Scottish accent. Oh,
oh yeah.
Well, he's from Toronto.
He's from Scarborough. Yeah, he is.
Oh, I actually live right beside the Mike Myers Road. It's in my neighborhood. I pass it every now and then. It's great.
Yeah, accents are a weird territory too when I think about it. Like even from like British to Scottish to Irish to it's like
How to Train Your Dragon has mostly characters that have Scottish accents, even though they're friggin' Vikings.
Sure. I mean, and this is like appropriate of nothing, but I guess we were talking about Shrek. But you guys know, like Chris Farley was originally meant to play Shrek. He recorded like a lot of stuff for it before he died, and that was like fucking 4 years before this film came out that Farley died. But I want to know if he played it in a Scottish accent.
Probably not, because I think it was Mike Myers' suggestion. And then they recorded like half his dialogue, and because it's animation, they had already animated around his non-accented dialogue, and it was extremely expensive.
And Mike Myers did that whole Scottish accent thing. He did it in sketches on SNL, and he did it in So I Married an Axe Murderer.
He did it in Austin Powers.
Yeah, he did it with Fat Bastard. That's right. It's not a terrible accent.
Mm.
I can let it slide.
What's been the worst Scottish accent that you heard?
How is Brave?
I never saw it.
Okay.
But I think, like, isn't Kelly MacDonald the lead in that movie, and she is very much Scottish, so...
She sounds pretty Scottish.
Johnny Lee Miller's accent in Trainspotting isn't as great as I remember it being. I don't know. I'm literally now just Googling bad Scottish accents.
That's a whole tangent, isn't it?
I guess it's, for me, what's interesting about it is, like, accents are this iffy thing where it is taking on someone's accent that's not yours, but then, like, it's, I don't know, it's just another conversation if that's acceptable somewhat. Is it? Like, I
think it depends on, I mean, in most cases no, but I mean, context is probably important there.
If we want to talk about recent bad Scottish accents, the current season of The Haunting of Bly Manor has one particular one that kind of piqued my interest, where I was like, I don't think this guy's Scottish. I won't go into it for people that haven't seen it yet, but one of the characters has a somewhat iffy Scottish accent in that, and he's definitely an English actor.
That was Braveheart.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, all right. There you go.
I've never seen Braveheart because in my town of birth in Stirling in Scotland, there is the William Wallace Monument. 2 or 3 years after that movie came out, they erected a statue of William Wallace in the car park, and it looks just like fucking Mel Gibson. And I took real umbrage with that. So I've never actually seen Braveheart. I refuse to watch it.
Why do you refuse to? Oh, you don't have to answer.
Okay, bad Scottish accents. Tom Hanks in Cloud Atlas. That's a fucking bad Scottish accent.
Oh yeah, that movie's wild. If you want to talk about people playing other races, now they didn't have anybody doing blackface. They drew the line there clearly, but they did have. Didn't they have Halle Berry playing a white woman?
Yeah,
that's a very interesting movie. It is. It's one of the ones where, like, I look at it, like, but the thing is, everyone is playing a different race. So, like, it's like we have, like, someone who's Korean playing someone who's British, and, like, vice versa. So a part of me is like, they were trying something, and I guess I was more okay with that.
It's supposed to serve a narrative purpose because it's the same characters reincarnated, I guess.
Yeah, again, that's a real fucking iffy one, that movie, I think.
I don't know. I don't even know how to parse that because I haven't read the book. So I don't know.
Some other bad ones are Christopher Lambert in Highlander.
Christopher Lambert.
That movie, we've got Christopher Lambert he's a French guy playing a Scottish guy. We've got Sean Connery, who's a Scottish guy playing a Spanish guy. That whole movie is just a shit show for accents.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I guess the worst one, James Doohan in Star Trek. Rest in peace, but
oh god,
not a good accent.
Well, Walter Koenig's Soviet character, he was also not Russian.
Yeah. Going on from that, Simon Pegg in those fucking new Star Trek movies, not a particularly convincing Scottish accent. I feel like we fucking derailed this conversation somewhat.
No, I think
to meet my own agenda.
No, it's not that. It ties in because it's again, like, why maybe bring a Scottish actor in instead of having someone work their butt off to have a Scottish accent?
Well, I mean, there are only 3 Scottish actors, and 2 of them are Ewan McGregor. So,
and then a part of me feels like too, like, again, for I guess representation for Scottish people, like, I feel like even for myself, I can tell the difference when it's like, say it's someone like Korean playing a Filipino. Like, I will tell them, like, I can tell the difference.
Yeah.
So, like, a part of me is like, is it similar to, like, say someone that's not Scottish playing someone that's Scottish?
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. With that, people often confuse, like, Irish and Scottish. That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've been asked if I'm Irish a few times. I'm constantly asked if I'm Australian, which I don't fucking get, but okay. Mm-hmm. But then again, my accent is just a weird fucking mishmash of Scottish and English, and now a little fucking inflections of Canadian as well. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yay! I mean, it's an interesting discussion to try to figure out where the lines are of, what causes the most hurt and
I guess it's like context, right? It's all, I guess, case by case context, and I guess the creative team behind it. Like, what was your intention of making?
Yeah.
Like, if it's like, oh, let's have it Scottish because it's funny, then maybe, like, I'm like, no, not maybe. Like, I'd be like, no, let's not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sometimes Scottish accent's pretty funny.
I mean, I didn't know that Johnny Lee Miller was British. I'd seen Hackers so many times. I never caught on to the fact that he's got a really silly American accent. And then when I saw him playing Sherlock Holmes, I'm like, what a terrible British accent.
Wait, what did he play Sherlock Holmes in?
The TV show. show, Elementary.
Yeah, it was called Elementary.
Oh, the show with Lucy Liu. Yeah.
Lucy Liu played Watson.
I enjoyed that series.
I forgot that show existed. Never saw it.
I haven't seen much of it, to be honest.
Fan of Lucy Liu. I would watch Charlie's Angels Full Throttle just because of it.
Laura, was that sharp and take a breath because Charlie's Angels 2 is a
Yeah.
fucking episode?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Absolutely. Sweet.
Could be, yeah.
Hell fucking yes.
I watched Ally McBeal back in the 90s when Lucy Liu was starting to become a thing.
Yeah, I never saw that show either.
I don't know. I watched a little bit of it recently to see if it held up.
Nope, it does not.
I'm glad I only watched the first couple of episodes because I thought to myself, I remember enough about this that if I keep watching, it's going to make me angry, probably.
Essentially, it's just like, wow, there's a lot of sexual harassment in Ally McBeal.
Well, the show starts off with the job that she the first law firm that she works at, she gets sexually harassed by her boss, and then she ends up suing him. And that's how she ends up working for the other guy, who's also kind of a creep. So, but he just doesn't sexually harass her.
Ally McBeal's a weird show when you think about it.
It was weird. It was a very strange show, looking back.
Holy shit, we've derailed this conversation. No, it's fine. It's fine.
You got it.
Is there anything else to say about Short Circuit 2? Because I feel like...
This was a hard one to watch for me because, like I say, this was a big part of my childhood. I have happy memories of seeing this in the theater with my family on like one of the few occasions that my entire family went to see a movie at the same time. I think I can count on one hand the amount of times that happened as a kid.
Same.
But also watching it through a 2020 lens, it's pretty uncomfortable to watch.
And I mean, like, I kind of made the point in the beginning, but it made it really hard for me to genuinely enjoy this, knowing that, that's where they decided to go, and that's what they decided comedy was, which is really disgusting, and it's so in the back of your head. If it was a shortcut of just the robot, hell yeah, I'd have a great time, which would make it then WALL-E, so I'm just going to rewatch WALL-E instead.
I mean, as you said, Chappie, I think, was mostly CGI, or all CGI, but like this was like practical effects. It was a robot puppet, and I mean... They proved the effectiveness of that with BB-8 in Force Awakens, and I think there needs to be, if anybody makes any more movies about robots, they should be practical effects. They should be puppets, because it's just so much more fun for the actors to interact with them, probably.
We have the technology.
And also, they don't need to have anybody in brownface in them either.
Yeah, exactly.
Stay the fuck out of Short Circuit free, Justin Trudeau.
Oof. Deep cuts.
Love it.
That was Short Circuit 2 from 1988, directed by Kenneth Johnson. We're going to take a break for a week, and we will be back in 2 weeks where we are going to be talking about Thanksgiving Free.
Yeah.
Jesus, I haven't seen this movie yet, but I took a look at some stills from this film, and this film looks batshit insane.
It does.
Did you say we were thinking of watching it live together? Well, not live, but like watching it at the same time.
I think this may be a group watch. I think alcohol may be involved.
Woo!
Yeah.
This movie is a sequel to Thanksgiving 1, not Thanksgiving 2, because there isn't a Thanksgiving 2. They just decided to jump right ahead and make a third one.
The third one killed the second one, I heard.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm very intrigued to see what the fuck this is all about.
Me too.
In the meantime, we have been Bad with Numbers from Toronto, Canada. Thank you for listening and stay safe.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.
You're doing a very good thing here.
Yes, I'm like Pinocchio.
What?
Oh, very similar. He was brought to life, and he discussed philosophy with a cricket who tried to teach him bad from good. And then
You motherfucker.
Cut. Cut. Cut.